Here we have another video from Meenan Transmission on location in Willow Grove, location in Lansdale. Be reached at meenantransmissions.com. Transmission we're talking about today is actually a Cd4E. It's a front wheel drive, actually all wheel drive. This is in a Mercury Mariner, same thing as a Ford Escape. Have quite an extensive removal and installation process. You can see you got to pull the final drive differential, have to pull the rear catalytic converter / exhaust manifold, exhaust. So a lot of the vehicle has to come apart to do this job. On the transaxle itself, it had no second gear, no fourth gear, which typically can be this band here. Sorry. And looking in the unit, here's the transmission disassembled, and that band, in fact, if you look down, you can see that the band anchorage point here is broken. So the band was in fact broke. So that'll give you a no second gear, no fourth gear operation. So a couple other things we see how these this comes up on the video, but the final drive differential assembly, the gears themselves, we can see that they are pitted, and that pitting typically will get worse and worse until eventually the final drive fails, and when that does, it gets to be pretty bad, and you can wind up damaging a bunch of the other stuff there. So whenever we see gears that are pitted like that, the only logical thing to do at that point when it's apart is to replace it. Another thing we saw in this one planet carrier, planetary pinions are going to have a certain amount of end thrust back and forth this way. However, when we see lateral rocking on the gear, let me see if we can show this here. That is an indication when the planet pinion will wobble like that, that you have wear on the interior board of the gear, or the needle bearings that are in that are actually worn, and they become tapered at the ends, and then they do not support the planet pinion, so that can cause a gear train to crash. In addition, we have some pitting that we saw. It's very important to look at these components. You see the pitting there on the bearing, but the main cause factor for the vehicle to come in with the problem was the failure of the band. But you see some of this other wear and tear on the transmission. You want this transmission to last. It's very important that you address all these individual items, as a gear train failure can get to be quite catastrophic and can damage the transmission even worse. So on top of the normal rebuilding items, you're going to need to replace, looks like final drive assembly, which is the carrier, and this is the sun gear for the final drive. And then we have this planetary carrier, obviously thrust bearings, band. The valve body control center of the transmission is often responsible, because they have a propensity for PR valve bore wear to have a overpressure condition that can be a contributing factor to the failure of those bands. But even with these parts requirements, should be able to save money compared to a remanufactured transmission.